Hello everyone, it's Christopher Allen with Christopher Allen Designs, and today I wanted to bring you kind of a different type of video. Obviously you see that I'm in a different location. I'm actually filming from my kitchen today because I am doing this kind of versus kind of a tutorial or kind of an explanation of two different machines today, and I needed tons and tons of room, and my kitchen is one of the largest rooms in my house, and I can really spread out on my kitchen table. So I have two cards here, and both of these cards were made by two different machines. This card, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you which card. We'll just see in the video. But one of these cards was made with the Silhouette Cameo, and one of these cards was actually made with the Cricut Explorer. And the reason for my video today is because I do get lots of questions as to why I love the Cricut Explorer and if I've ever used the Silhouette Cameo, and all different questions about both machines. So I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to do a different type of video today where I actually show you from start to finish designing a card as well as it being cut on the machine. I do not show you how to put the cards together. It's kind of self-explanatory how to put these cards together. You know, obviously I show you all the different pieces, but I honestly cannot tell, you know, which one is cut by which, and that's kind of what I wanted to kind of overview today. Is it's hard to tell, you know, which cutting machine is cutting which. What the real bulk of, you know, difference is how you go about doing it, how the software works, and how, of course, the machine cuts things out, and the steps that you have to take with the machine to cut things out. So that's really the big difference between the two machines, are the materials that they can cut, the way they cut, the writing, the scoring, things like that. So I wanted to kind of go ahead and show you how we do all of that. So one disclaimer that I do want to place on this video is that with the Cricut Explorer as well as the Silhouette Cameo, I know there are going to be lots of different ways that people do things, and possibly easier ways that people do things. So if you have a suggestion for an easier way to do something for myself or for anyone else that's watching this video, please place it below. I did not do these videos in any favor of either of the machines. I just basically, again, did a card from start to finish with both machines, and I wanted to show you how the ease of use is for both and the difference between the two. All right, so let's head over and we'll get started in our Silhouette Studio first. Okay everyone, like I stated in the intro, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I would make a card from start to finish in the Silhouette Studio software, as well as the Design Space software. And I'm going to show you actually going ahead and cutting it out and the finished card. So first I'm going to start with the Silhouette Studio, and what I'm going to do here is I'm making a Halloween card like I showed you in the intro. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first pick out my image. That's how I start every card that I create, and I want to figure out what image that I want to use for the front of the card, actually like a cutout that I'm going to use for the front. Now in the Silhouette Studio, to find an image that I want to use, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go down to the store. Now in the store, if I want to search for something, like for instance we're doing a Halloween card, I'll just type in Halloween and it will find for me all of the Halloween images that we have here. So what I picked, and I already did this ahead of time to try to save a little bit of time, is I actually chose these buttons down here, and it already says that I own it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more thing just so I can show you how this process works. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase these, and with the subscription you actually get a dollar amount. So I have a dollar amount currently towards my subscription. That's a little bit different than just getting all of the images, and I'll go over that once we get to the Design Space. So I'll add this to my cart, and I'll go up to my cart up here, and I'll say checkout. And the checkout, we have to put in our password so that it allows us to check out. We submit, and you can go ahead and check out, and it's going to download this file here. So now I have that file. So we'll close out of here, but we're not going to use that file. What we're going to use is the file that I downloaded earlier, because I want to make this as fair a comparison as possible and I'm going to use very similar images, the same fonts, and try to create almost the exact same card. Now, what I first will always do is I create a card base. In Silhouette Studio, all I'm going to do is click on this draw rectangle, and I'm just going to draw a basic rectangle here. Now, I do have to change my line style to a solid line because that's how it is going to cut, and that will, whoops, hold on one moment. We want to make sure that it is a solid line so that it will cut out a solid line. And then I'll go up here to change the sizing up at the scale. Now I want my card to be a 5x7 card, which is generally what I make most of my card sizes. And for that we want to unclick the lock aspect, and we want to make the width of it 7 and the height of it 10, which will give us a 5x7 card. Whoops, 10. And we'll hit enter, and it will make that our card base size. Now here, I do like to kind of assemble my card on the screen. In the Silhouette Studio, doing that is a little bit different. So I'll show you how I'm going to assemble it on the screen to actually, look like kind of the finished card that we're going to have at the end. But in the Silhouette Studio, it's a little bit different because you can't keep the images on the mat and have the Silhouette Studio automatically cut them on different colors or different papers. And I'll show you, we'd have to move that over on the mat because what you see is what you get in Silhouette Studio. It's going to cut everything exactly where you have it on the mat. So first what I want to do is I want to add in a score line. Now in the Silhouette Studio, there isn't an actual score line that is used. You actually create that line yourself. It is a very design-based software. So we're going to go up and we'll select a dotted line style or a dashed line style, and we'll put this where we believe the center is on the card. Now I do not have the designer edition of this software, so that means that it does not allow me to use rulers on the sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and my workaround for this is clicking here, and these little boxes are just about the center of that. So I'll move that down to where I believe the center is, click again, just move it up just a little bit, and that looks like it's about the center for me to fold my card. So now what I want to do is I want to add my image onto the card that I'm going to use. So I'll go over to my little catalog here, and we'll find my Halloween buttons, and we will go ahead and we'll double click, and that will bring that in here for us. So I only want to use this skull and crossbones. So what we'll do is we'll ungroup this set, and I'm going to delete everything that I am not going to be using. So we'll delete all of these pieces that I'm not going to use for this actual card, and we'll be good to go because I just want this little skull and crossbones. So we'll go ahead and we'll regroup this so that I can move it around here, and we'll hit group, and then we'll bring it down here, and we'll resize it to what I think would be best for this card here. So that's what we're going to put on the, obviously the top of the card. Now I do want to go ahead and I want to create a mat to go over top of the card. Now something that's a little bit different, of course, in the Silhouette Studio is I do not have a mat that just goes on forever. For instance, you'll see in the Design Space software, the mat, you can put anything you want in any place on the mat, and it's automatically going to place it on your cut mat for you. Here, again, like I said, it's what you see is what you get. So what I'll have to do is I will go ahead and I'll do a File, New, and down here at the bottom, I have my first part of my card, and over here is where I'll have my second part. So what I need is, again, a 5x7 box so that I am able to, of course, put that mat on there. So here is, we'll unclick that lock aspect. We're going to do the width as 7 and the height as 5 for our card. We'll hit enter. Whoops, we'll hit enter, and that will make that should, whoops. One moment, let me get rid of that box that I just drew there. And again, we want to make sure that this is clicked. That's a mistake I make a lot in order to resize this. So the width again is 7, and the height is going to be 5, and we'll hit enter, and that will apply that for us. So this is going to be our mat for the card. And now what I want to do is I want to create a little sentiment that goes under here at the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is go again to my second mat, and we're going to draw another box. And this box this time, we want it to be 2 inches high by 7 inches wide, so that it's going to fit, oops, we don't want to lock that, by 7 inches, and then enter. And because we want this to fit underneath of that circular image that I created up there. So we'll bring this down to the bottom here. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll add some text over here on the left. And I want to use, I found a super fun, creepy font that I want to use. And again, you can use, just like in the Design Space software, you can use whatever font you have preloaded onto your computer here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find my font. And of course, I should have written down the name of this font before I started, because I don't know exactly what the name of it is. And now I'm going to need to search through these to find it. Whenever I did a trial run of this earlier, to make sure that obviously I wanted it to be fair for both different, oh here it is, it's called Sketch Gothic School. I wanted to make it sure it was fair for both machines, so I did actually create these projects before I'm actually filming right now. I should have written down this Sketch Gothic School, but now we know what it's called. And I'm going to write on here, Happy Halloween. And there it is there. And what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure that that is on the correct spot there, and that looks good to me. So now what we're going to do is I have my card completed to the way that I would like it, and I'm going to jump over now to the design space, and I'm going to create a very similar card. And then what we'll do is, after I'm done showing you in design space, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut everything out for you. Now, I do want to mention very briefly before we do that, with the Silhouette Studio, when I'm cutting it out, I am going to explain by showing actually me cutting it on the machine, and showing you how I would do it by changing out the pen and writing and things like that. But I do want you to note that with this, I am going to have to move this over to the side, and that is because this system will cut this in this spot on the mat. And I'll place a piece of paper, actually glittered, I believe. I think I might use orange glitter paper or black glitter paper, but it does not automatically change this to a different layer or a different color on the mat. So it won't separate this mat out. So we want to make sure that that's removed when you're using the Silhouette Studio. And also, one thing to note as well is this is not going to automatically write this for us. Whenever I'm going ahead and I'm going to actually cut and write this out, I will tell it that I'm going to write it as opposed to cut it, but it is not going to switch over to that automatically. And I'll show you that a little bit more in depth once we get over to the actual Silhouette Cameo and cut and write this out. So now we're going to switch gears. We're going to go to Design Space, and then we'll cut everything out. See you in a second. All right, everyone, as I promised, we are over here at the Cricut Design Space, and we are at my starting canvas. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to create the exact same card that we saw earlier. There are going to be a couple of differences, only that in the images, because obviously I'm not going to be able to bring over the silhouette image that I used previously, so but we'll use something very similar. So again, like I said, in the silhouette designs, the Silhouette Studio, I'm going to make my card base. So in order to do that, we need to find a box, a square, because it's going to bring up the actual boxes. So we're going to bring up the square, and that's how we're going to begin our design here. So we'll hit the one that I'm subscribed to, we'll hit insert image, and over here on the edit screen is where we're going to change our width and height. Now we want to make sure that we unclick that aspect there, and again, the width is going to be the width is going to be 7 and the height is going to be 10. So there is our card base here. We're going to move that up so I can see it a little bit better. And what I'm going to do, what I generally do is I'll bring this all the way to the top because I know the width, but I'm looking for these rulers here on the side to put my score line in. So let's go ahead again, we'll hit insert image and we'll type in score. And that will give us our score line. Now, once we go ahead and click on this, we're going to want to put that in. So let's click on the score line and we'll drag it over here. and we want to rotate it so that it is obviously horizontal. So now what I'll do is we'll take a look at the width and height. The width we do not need to change, but the width we don't need to change, but the height we are going to change. We're going to change that to 7, so it's the exact size. So it's the exact size of our box. Actually, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll drag it so that we can put it perfectly over top of that. So what we want to do is arrange, and we'll bring it to the front. Actually, it's already at the front, so we don't have to worry about that. And we know we want this to be on we'll turn our grid lines on here. We want it to be at the 5-inch mark because that's the half point of our card. And I'll go ahead and I will place this right where that line is at the 5-inch mark. And looks like that. Let's see, that looks good. And what we'll do is we will drag this, we'll drag this over on this side. Again, I apologize, I grabbed the wrong side there, but everything is fine now. And we'll drag this over here, and that is at our 5-inch mark here. And again, we don't need it to go all the way over. This score line is just basically helping us to fold it. So there is our score line. Now let's insert another image. Again, I'm trying to follow along exactly how I do in both programs. And let's type in Halloween. And let's grab an image here. And now you will notice that I am subscribed, so all of these images that I'm subscribed to are available to me at any time as long as I am subscribed. So let's find something that's similar to that. I really like this. I think, yep, I really like the spider web. So let's go ahead and we'll take that, and we will bring that onto our mat here. Now you will notice that this spider web is a different color. The nice thing about the design space is since this is a different color, it's going to know automatically to cut that in a different spot on the mat. And I'll just show you in one moment here exactly what that means. So we have our spider web that's very similar, of course, to the other card that we're making. Now we'll insert another square so we can do our mat. So we'll hit the, we'll hit the square here, and we'll bring in again that square. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that we change the color of this square so that we know that it's something that's different that's going on the card. So we'll hit up here to where it says cut image, and we'll just make that, let's say green, so that I can notice it here, so I know what that is here. And we'll edit that. We'll again unlock the aspect here. We'll do a 7 by 5, and that's going to go completely over top of this portion of the card here. As we can see, that's going to be our, it's not really a mat, it's actually going to cover up that entire area. We'll arrange and we'll send that backwards so that it's behind this spider web so we can see exactly what we have for our card here. We're going to do pattern paper with that, so it's a little bit different. And I apologize if you hear my dogs barking in the background. I am filming this actually in my kitchen as opposed to my studio because I have a lot more room to spread out my machines. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and upload, or excuse me, insert another image, which is going to be another square so that we can do that sentiment at the bottom. So let's bring the square in. And again, we want to make sure that this knows that this is going to be a different color. Now, this actually truly is not going to be a different color than this. I'm going to do this in black as well. So we can allow this to cut at the same time as the card base. So since these two are the same color, we're going to go ahead and we are going to allow them to cut at the same time. That's a very simple rule of thumb. If they are the same color on here, they're going to cut at the same time on the mat. So let's go ahead and we want this to be, again, 2 inches by 7. So we'll do the 7 for the width, and we'll do the 2 inches for the height. So we'll go ahead and we'll take that and we'll bring this down here. And this Happy Halloween is actually going to be a little bit over top of the, underneath of this spider web here. So let's go ahead and we will put our sentiment on here. So we'll move it out of here. I just want to make sure that it's going to fit here. And we're going to go ahead and place our text on top of that. So let's get that text going here, and we'll write Happy Halloween. Okay, and now our Happy Halloween sentiment is going to come up here. And to change that font, we want to go to Edit, and we're going to look for that font again to place it in there. So, whoops, we're going to select again the font that we want, and that will be selected from here over on this side. And again, these are all of my fonts that I own, as well as all of the fonts that are loaded onto the system from the Cricut, from actually the cartridges and things of that nature. And I know that I said only about 2 seconds ago that I was going to remember the name of this font, and I'm sure that all of you right now are shouting the name of the font to me, but for some reason, again, I did not write it down. So, and I see, the funny thing is I see this font every single day. Here we are. And I could not wait to use it, so I'm so excited to use it on this card here. Every time that I'm in my design space or in any of my different design areas, I see this and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to use this font, and I'm glad that I'm able to use it today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we are going to bring this font down into this box so that it's in the center here. And now one thing that does change, of course, with the design space is we are able to tell this that we want this to be written. So we go up to this layer and we're going to click write. And that's going to actually be in silver metallic, but it doesn't matter because we changed the pen out ourselves. And what we want to do is we want to select both of these, the box as well as the writing, and we want to hit attach. What that's going to do is that's going to tell our software and tell our machine that the Happy Halloween is going to be written on top of this box. And again, kind of in a little simpler term, that means that these two items are going to stay together on the mat. And while I'm doing that, and while I remember here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to drag this over here. We're going to drag this up and over to here. And we want to select both of these items together, because both of these items need to be put together because they are going to be attached as well, so that we make sure that the score line actually scores on the card. So what we'll do to make this easier is we hit shift, and that will, we hit the square and we hit shift because they're right next to each other, and that will select both of them, and we'll hit attach for that as well. What that's going to do, of course, is that's going to attach these two. Now it did change the color of this, so we do want to change that back because it's taking on the color of that score line. So we want to change that back to this, to the pink color, and we'll change this to that same exact pink color that I just chose, so that both of these are cut on the same mat here. Now I do want to show you whenever I hit go how this is going to lay everything out. This is a little bit different than Silhouette Studio, only because with Silhouette Studio, like I said earlier, what you see on the mat is what is going to be cut. This is actually going to simplify that a little bit for you, because it's automatically going to put things that are the same color and size and things like that on different mats. So whenever I hit go, you'll see that it is going to show me exactly the way the mats are laid out and exactly how it's going to cut everything. So it will show us the first mat that it wants to cut, and it will also show obviously where things are going to write as well. The first mat is obviously my pattern paper. The second mat is going to be my spider web. The third mat is my card base. And the fourth mat is my Happy Halloween. Now, this fourth mat did do this separately because it did not place it on this mat, because I have it attached so that it stays horizontal. If I would have turned it sideways and attached it, it would have put it on this first mat, but that's okay. Also, I want you to notice that on this screen, you can see here that it is going to go ahead and score. You can see here that it is going to write. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to hit go on the in the design space, and I'm also going to hit go or cut in Silhouette, and I'm going to show you exactly how everything's going to cut out and exactly how everything's going to write and score in both machines. Okay, and we'll be right back. All right, everyone, as I promised, I am going to go ahead and show you exactly how I would cut this out and how I would write on each machine because I am doing the writing, the scoring, as well as the cutting on both machines to show you. I apologize if you hear that noise in the background. I'm just opening up my Silhouette sketch pens. Now what I'm going to do here is whenever I actually clicked on the cut settings, it did tell me that the ratchet blade has to be set to 7. So on the Silhouette machine, what needs to happen is you need to actually open this up here and you actually take out the blade housing, and you can see there are actually little numbers that are listed here. Just waiting for this to focus. There are little numbers that are actually here on the blade here. For some reason it's not going to focus for me, but there are those little numbers. So what I need to do is there's a little opening right here that we will take this and place this in there until we get to, until we get to the 7 marker. So we'll place this in and we twist until we get to 7. And as you can see here, there is a little, I'm not sure if you can see because for some reason it's not focusing, but there is a little red mark right here that shows me that it is on the 7. I really wish it would focus. I think there's too much going on in the background. But as you can see, there's that little 7. So we'll place this back in and turn that knob, and then we're ready to go. So as you can see, I set up my mat here so that the black regular cardstock paper is here, and then my glitter paper is here. I actually set this in the center as a little bit of a cheat sheet, or not cheat sheet, but a little bit of a cheat. I set it on cover stock so that I didn't have to go ahead and change out that blade a couple of times. So what we'll do is we're going to cut our first mat. So let me go ahead and I'm going to load this into the machine. Just want to make sure that it's lined up with these 2 white rollers here, and then we're going to hit enter, and then that will load into our machine. And I'm going to go ahead and hit let's see, I'm going to go ahead and hit the cut on my software over here, and then everything should get started for us. Now I will go ahead and I will speed this up most likely through editing so you don't have to watch the entire thing cutting. But with this step as well, I do want to note that it is going to do my score line as well, and the score line is actually going to be cut as opposed to scored. So we can watch that happen. Now it's going to get started. Okay, now everything is finished up on our card base, so we'll hit enter, and we're going to open it up, and we're going to pull off our card base here. I should have the spatula tool, but everything will be fine. So here's our card base, and we can, of course, fold it in half there, and that's good for us because there we can see there is a score line there that has been perforated, and now we'll pull out our little skull and crossbones here. Oops. And we'll pull him out because we're going to use him on the card as well. Bear with me, these are very sticky mats. And as you can see, that cut out great. And I'm going to pull off his eyes here as well. I think I might use this for something else. I'm not sure what, but I do like that as well. And I'm going to pull off his eyes because we are going to use that in the finished card as well. So it cut all of these out great. So let's get all those off of there so we can move to our next step. Now the next step in this cut out is we have the pattern paper as well as the writing. So what we're going to do is we want to put the pattern paper on our mat, and with the pattern paper we're just going to set that on my mat. I have it down a little bit on my virtual mat, so we're going to place that down a little bit here towards the bottom. And then when I'm going back, I'm just checking my screen to see where I placed things because we want to make sure that they cut in obviously the right space on here. So I'm just seeing where I place things on my mat. And next we want to make sure that when we're cutting out this bottom square, we want to make sure that we do not have the Happy Halloween actually on it that I showed you earlier, because if we keep the Happy Halloween on there, it is going to attempt to cut that Happy Halloween and not write it, because it does not have two different settings to switch to write. We do have to do that separately. So we're going to go ahead and place our black piece at the bottom, and the black piece at the bottom is actually what is going to be cut out for our sentiment that's going to be written on. So we'll go ahead, and again we're going to load our mat, enter here, and we're going to allow this to cut. Now I do have to go ahead, because this is paper and a lighter cardstock that I'm using for this, I am going to have to change my cut settings here, and that means that we're going to need to go ahead and change the depth of the blade. It looks like this needs to be now set on a 4. So we'll go ahead, we'll pop this guy out again. We'll take it, and we want to make sure that it is set on a 4 as opposed to the 7. So we'll twist it. It's now on the 4 with that little red line. Pop it back in. We'll go ahead and close that off, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to send it to our silhouette machine. So I'm going to hit start. It's going to go ahead and cut, and I'm going to fast forward through this portion as well. Okay, now this is all finished up, so we're going to unload our mat, and we can pull off this paper portion, which is the portion that is going to go on the front of our Happy Halloween card. And we'll go ahead and we will take this part off. As you can see, cut great, it's good to go. And we can also see here, I'm going to bring over this piece that it fits on top of this perfectly, and then we'll put this on top, good to go. So now what we want to do is I'm sorry, I'm probably right in front of the camera. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we keep this on the mat. This is where our little square cut out, because we want it to write in the same place on this square. So we need to move that Happy Halloween back on to our mat, onto our virtual mat, so that it knows where to write it. And then what we'll do is we want to make sure that it is in that spot that we want it on there, and we want to, again, delete the box that's around it, or we can hide that layer. You want to make sure that you're, hiding that layer, because that is going to, we don't want that to recut. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to have this right on the actual piece of paper. So we'll select that right, the right, I don't know how to say it correctly, not the right selection, but we want to select to make it right, if that makes sense. So now what I'm going to do is we need to replace this blade. We'll take our blade out of here with the Silhouette sketch pens. We'll go ahead and we'll just place this right in to our little section here, and then we'll close that off and we'll tell it to go. And that will go ahead and write this for us. Now again, I'm going to speed this up as well because I want to, I don't want this video to be hours long, but I do want to show you how both machines are going to go ahead and achieve this. All right, everyone, I'm back. I apologize. I already took this off of the mat, and I did not realize that it was not recording. So here is our sentiment. It is completed. I haven't punched all of this out yet, but here's what it looks like completed. It looks, I think, fantastic, and we'll be able to put this, of course, on the card. One thing to note with the Silhouette pens is that they are like a gel pen. If you can see here, it's like a jelly pen. I'll write on the back of this. They're very fine and they work very well. So there's our finished sentiment here, and we'll see this on, of course, you saw this, excuse me, on the finished card at the beginning. All right, everyone, now I'm going to show you how we would cut this out on the Cricut Explore. So first what we'll do is we will hit our go on our actual software, and it says that my first match is going to be the decorative paper. So what we do is we just go ahead and we hit go on the screen, and what we'll do is we'll load this into our, oops, I'll take this out first. We'll load this into our machine. So make sure we're under the clips here, hit the load button, and then what will happen is when it's ready to go, our little Cricut head will light up. We want to make sure that this is on the correct setting over here on the Cut Smart dial. And I have it in between light cardstock and cardstock, which should be good for the entire project except for the glitter paper. So we hit that flashing Cricut symbol, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to cut this out for us. Now, what I want everyone to be mindful of with this machine is that it is going to continuously feed us the next design and the next map that we need to do. We are not going to go back to our software and switch things out and change things in order for this machine to know which map we're on and what we want to cut next. So we'll just hit our unload button, go ahead, and we will take out this, or take off, excuse me, our pattern paper. This mat is super sticky because it is a newer mat. And we'll go ahead and we will take this off of here. So that is our pattern paper that we're going to use for our card. All done. And our next mat is actually our glitter cardstock. So we'll set this up in our center area here. And there we go. So the only thing I'm going to change here is we want to change our dial to custom. We'll go ahead and we'll load this in, and we're going to jump back over to the computer real quick, and what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to change that material to glitter cardstock, which I've actually changed that now. We'll just hit the go button, and what the glitter cardstock is going to do is it's going to make sure that the pressure is set at the right depth. It's also going to make sure the speed is where it's supposed to be. And again, this is all done automatically with this Smart Set dial. So it will know it's actually going to cut everything twice, as well as at a deeper pressure because it is that glitter cardstock. Now there is another blade that can be used here. It is actually called the deep cut blade that can be used for the Cricut Explorer when you're doing glitter cardstock or something of this nature. I actually don't believe, because you can feel on this that it's not really the glitter's not coming off of it, so I think that it should be fine with this blade. And then also one thing that I want to mention is with this Smart Set dial, we're not changing out the blade for anything. All we're doing is setting it and kind of forgetting it, I guess, and letting everything go through the motions. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let this cut, and then I will pull it up. We're going to speed this up a little bit because it is cutting everything twice because it is a thicker paper, and then we'll go on to our next mat. Alright everyone, this did cut out. We're going to hit our unload paper there, and we're going to go ahead and pull this up. I am going to use my leading tool here to pull this up just because it is a delicate cut, obviously because of the spider web, and we're going to go ahead and pull this up very ever so gently, and we can see here that everything, whoops, pulled that a little too hard, that everything did cut out here perfectly. We just have obviously a couple little pieces because this is a very intricate cut here, and as you can see, I'll put it on this dark background, that everything cut out perfectly, and I just love this glitter paper. Okay, so our next mat, but before we move on to the next mat, we want to get all of this cleaned off of here because obviously nothing's going to stick very well when we have that on there. So let's go ahead and bring all of this mess over here. I'm working on my kitchen table, so I have a lot more room for the machine. Okay everyone, I am back with a new fresh piece of paper. So let's go ahead and we will put this on our mat. This piece of paper is large enough. We're going to go ahead and load it, but we want to actually make sure that we are still on that previous mat. So we'll hit go, and it's going to cut out our card base again, just because I paused and stopped it. Unfortunately, again, that was my mistake. I cut the paper too small to actually go ahead and go on the piece of paper here. Now, one thing that I do want to remind you of is if you're using a heavier cardstock like this, you don't necessarily have to change your setting of how deep it is. It's still on the custom setting, which is the glitter cardstock, which just means it's going to go around everything twice. You can change it if you would like. Most of the time, in situations like this where I'm just doing the straight lines, I don't change anything over because it's not really necessary. So we're already all done with our card base, so we'll go ahead and we'll lift up this piece of paper, and we will grab our card base here, and I'll show you, as you can see here, there's our score line on there. We'll go ahead and make sure that everything is lined up here, and that score line makes it so easy to go ahead and fold the card in half. Now I do want to set this down on the table here and make sure that I do have a really good fold here, because obviously if you don't do it on the table, it won't. It's very hard for me at least to get it super matched up. So now we have our topper for here, we have our glitter here, and now we're going to do our very final step. This one I'm definitely going to have to fast forward because it's going to be a little bit longer because we're going to be doing some writing. So we'll go ahead, we'll put our piece of paper on here like so. We're going to go ahead and we're going to load our mat, and it's going to tell us on the computer screen that we need to load our pen. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this out. Super easy. Whoops. Too many scraps. We'll go ahead and we'll place this in. Again, always holding the bottom part here so that that does not hit our paper. And we hit go. And it's just going to get everything started and going forward for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to speed this up. because it is going to be writing everything. And then when we come back, I will show you the finished product. Okay, now our sentiment has completed. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull this off of our mat here. And as you can see, I did use the regular marker for the Cricut, so it's not as detailed with the sentiment, but you can still see obviously that it says Happy Halloween because I used a marker instead of a fine tip pen like the Cameo has. You can use a finer tip if you would like, but I like the marker and I like how it's kind of filled in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump over and I'm going to give my final review on these two machines. Not really a review, but kind of just an overview of how I feel about both. Okay. All right, everyone, I wanted to go ahead and provide you, of course, with a review of both machines. I do enjoy both of these machines for different reasons and for different simplicity of use of both of them. With the Cricut Design Space and the Cricut Explore, obviously, as we have seen, it is much easier to do some of the different steps. Obviously, it's going to continually feed the mats to you, so you don't have to change anything out. Also, the pen, obviously, you can switch those out very easily, just like the Silhouette, and it does do a score as opposed to cutting a score. The Design Space software is much easier to use if you are not actually a designer. It's also easier to bring things in and get them started on your project. With the Silhouette Studio, I did enjoy that as well. I enjoyed that because I am a designer and I could do more things obviously within the software. It's definitely not something that I would suggest for a regular everyday crafter. It's not something that I would suggest for someone that is just making cards or someone that is just simply making scrapbook pages. It is a very advanced piece of software. Also with the Silhouette, I did not really like that I had to take the blade out and switch things around. I also did not like that I had to switch the pen, or excuse me, take the pen, instead of cutting, I guess it's a little bit hard to describe. Instead of, going ahead and taking the cut or the writing that I wanted for the Happy Halloween and just telling it that I wanted that to write and just doing it all in one cohesive step, I was unable to do that. I had to actually remove the Happy Halloween from the mat and let it cut out everything first, then reload the mat once I had reloaded the pen and tell it to write then. So there's a couple of bumps, obviously, with the Silhouette software whenever I am, trying to get something done, I guess, a little bit easier. I guess that's the term. It's much easier to use the Design Space, at least for me, whenever I'm doing something quicker. And it's also easier to have all the mats done for me, so I'm not switching mats and unhiding and hiding layers and things like that. But again, these are of course my own views. I would obviously choose the Cricut Explore over the Cameo simply because of the ease of use. Again, I most likely would use the Cameo if I was doing more of the designing and things of that nature, but the Design Space is going to be my favorite here simply because of the ease of use and the ease of the subscription and the way that it automatically does all of the mats and everything for me. So you can, get your own, or formulate, I guess, your own opinion about the two different machines because I did, obviously go ahead and do everything with both of them for you. If you have any questions, please go ahead and comment below, or you can send me an email, of course, and I will respond to them. Again, I enjoy both machines. I enjoy both ways of doing the designing and the software, but if you were going to ask me for ease of use, which I've gotten a lot of questions, and also the software, I would have to go with the Cricut Explorer. So I thank you so much for watching, and again, any questions, please go ahead and send them my way. Bye.